Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wildin' in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
This just in, the Kings suck. It's official. Welcome back to Royal Rebounds. What's up, Kings fans? This is the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans by fans.
Welcome to another episode of the Royal Rebounds Podcast. I'm Calvin. He's Barry. As Barry said, the Kings still suck, but we're still here. Breaking it down, 133 to 127 loss to the Milwaukee Bucks today. What's up, everybody? Good to see you guys in the chat. Gothan, JN, Dennis, welcome back. Let's drink. Let's have a nightcap.
Let's go. We're here, we're drinking beers, and we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. That's delicious. What's up, Dennis? What's up, Makami? Welcome back, guys. This is your Sacramento Kings nightcap. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you smash up that like button down below. And if you enjoy awesome Kings content like this, hit that subscribe button as well. All right, Cal. So Kings lose tonight, 133-127 to the Milwaukee Bucks. De'Aaron Fox is a late scratch after having a sore ankle during warmups. We see Tyrese Haliburton back. Giannis is also scratched. He played yesterday, and he had some knee soreness, so he missed the game. The Kings officially lost 8 out of the last 10 games. And we talk about how good of a road team they've been earlier on in the season. They haven't won a road game since December 1st at LA.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of months. They actually got off to a pretty nice start in this game. They came out shooting very well. They shot very well for the game. I mean, most teams, not in Sacramento, when you shoot 53% from the field, 41 almost percent from three, you have 58 points in the paint, you have 29 assists. Most teams win those games. Not Sacramento, though.
Yeah, I'm checking on this Niners-Packers game. It's pretty close.
It's a very tight game.
10-10 with a minute less. Wow. That's... Hi, Wendy. Good to see you. I'm glad you made it home safely. Calvin and I had an awesome time golfing yesterday and drinking some of the Trulies you left.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
And we actually just got back into reality. I was in VR after the Kings game playing some poker and some blackjack, and it's pretty wild. You guys should get Oculus. If nobody has Oculus here, you guys should get one. Hopefully we could broadcast on the Oculus soon, right? That'd be pretty cool. All right, Cal, so I want to hear your first thoughts on the game.
Well, my first thoughts, as I mentioned, the Kings played another very solid offensive game. Terence Davis is playing his best basketball of the season. It was great to get Tyrese back. He had another good game. Harrison Barnes had a fantastic game today as well. But, again, it just doesn't matter. If you don't play defense, I mean, this game really came down to three-point shooting. The Bucks shot a whopping 50% from three, 21 of 42. They were also 22 of 25 at the foul line for 88%. The Kings, other than turnovers, really, they won every statistical category in this game. Points in the paint, rebounds, assists. I mean, it just comes down to guarding the three. And the Bucks are a great team at playing inside out. Usually Giannis is a big part of that. They're really good in transition. They love to post up. They're good, willing passers out of the double team. They get a lot of open looks from three. The Kings are not a good team defense in terms of rotations and things like that. So they got wide open looks at the basket all night long, and they knocked them all down.
And they have a championship pedigree that they achieved last season. They are missing their best player, but I'm starting to see some consistency here from the Kings. The best player is out for the other team, Kings lose.
Well, unfortunately, the Kings don't win a lot of games when the best player is playing either. But again, they squandered some really, really good games here. If you look at the box score, I mean, Tyrese had a great game. 24 points, 12 assists, 6 boards. Terence Davis, another 20-point game, 22 points. Harrison Barnes, 29 on 11 of 18 shooting. All 5 starters in double figures. The bench was a big no-show for them tonight.
Yep.
But 127 points is enough to win most games. But you just have to play defense, too. It's kind of required in this game in order to win.
Do you like this starting of Terence Davis? I mean, you talked about no production off the bench. We've seen him play incredible as of late, coming off the bench. He did start when Tyrese was out, but do you like starting him? Do you feel like he's the right guy if you're missing a guard?
Yeah, I mean, him and Buddy Hield, I don't think there's really a wrong choice there because both guys, are very similar type players. It really handicaps them defensively, though. Terence Davis is a nice, young, athletic player, but he's really undersized in a lot of these situations. He was matched up with Middleton a lot tonight. Middleton absolutely had his way with him and Buddy Hield out there, which was one of my keys to the game going in, not knowing that Giannis wasn't going to play. But, I felt like Harrison Barnes was going to be the guy on him most of the night. But what were the Kings going to do when Barnes was on the bench or if he was guarding somebody else? And so I don't know if there's really a wrong or right answer between starting Terence Davis or Buddy Hield because both of them have been very, very streaky when it comes to shooting the basketball. Luckily, Terence Davis is riding this good wave right now. And, you figure if one of them is starting, the other one should be able to come off the bench and get you that production that you need from your bench points. But the problem is both of them can have these over games, basically. I mean, Buddy was 2 of 11 today. So,
yeah, I think a big thing for the Bucks in this game is the bench production. 35 points off the bench for them tonight, along with 0 turnovers. That's pretty much all you can ask for as far as guys coming off the bench and doing their best. But, yeah, Sacramento just hasn't had enough. As you mentioned, 6 points for Buddy Hield tonight, 2 of 11 from the field, 2 of 7 from three-point range. What do you think is going on with Buddy Hield?
I mean, it's the same old Buddy to me. We could be here a week from now if he doesn't get traded, and he could have 2 or 3 games in a row where he scores 24 or more points. He shoots really well from 3. And at this point, I don't know that anyone will really be jumping on the bandwagon of, we need to keep Buddy Hield in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. But, people will kind of fade away from the dogpiling on top of him because at least he's shooting well and scoring points. Another week goes by, we're back in the same position. I mean, this is the story of his career. It's yeah. I don't want to say it's like clockwork because you don't know when he's going to turn it on and when he's not, but you know what to expect from him.
He shot lights out in a game in this last week, and then he's just kind of dropped off since then. I think inconsistency might be his middle name. Yeah. But I want to talk about my guy Tyrese. We've been talking about his fit, with De'Aaron Fox and all this, and then we also talk about guys that miss games and come back and we give excuses. We say, he didn't play bad. He just came back from COVID. He needs some time to get back in. Tyrese didn't need any time.
No, he did not.
First game back
just happens to be in his home state, gets to play in front of his family, has his high school jersey retired the night before.
Yeah.
Good timing.
24 points, 12 assists. I don't like the 4 turnovers, but I'll take it on the 12 assists. To me, he's shown that if he's running the point, he could be a 20-10 guy easily.
Well, I'm glad that you brought this up because I did a little research while watching this game today because the Kings' different offense is noticeably different when De'Aaron Fox doesn't play. And I mean their style of play. I think it was JN on our last podcast. He said I was more of a Fox fan than I am a Haliburton fan. So I want to give a little love to Haliburton, show that I do really appreciate his game as well. The guy is a much more complete point guard, and I feel that the rest of the players on the Kings team are better suited to have good games when De'Aaron Fox isn't in the game. And that obviously makes sense because De'Aaron Fox is an isolation player and tends to, his usage is really high and he holds the ball for a good portion of the game. In the 5 games that De'Aaron Fox has not played this season, the Kings averaged 24 assists per game. They average just around 21 per game when he does play. Harrison Barnes averages 20 points a game when Fox does not play and Haliburton is running the point. That's the difference. I mean, you could see it just in Harrison Barnes' play tonight. He's cutting to the basket, tons of backdoor cuts, got a ton of layups off those. You're not going to make those moves when De'Aaron Fox has the ball a lot of times because, A, you're going to get in his way. He's just trying to get to the rim.
Yep.
And B, he might not be looking for you in the first place. So it's a very big difference. I mean, you still have to play defense in order to complete the cycle. But yeah, that's
17
what I mean
points
for everybody.
in 25 minutes tonight.
Terence Davis, you can say the same thing.
Yep. It's more of a team ball, I guess, when Tyrese plays. And he's been shooting incredible, man. Those step back threes that he's taken from deep, and every single time he shoots, I'm like, oh, it's in. It's in.
Yeah.
He's just been playing out of his mind, and I think he deserves a lot of credit, especially, first game back, played 38 minutes. Unfortunately, the Kings don't get a win, but, when we were talking about this game coming up, nobody expected the Kings to win this game. Like, let's be real here. We all thought they were going to lose. After the game, I'm like, Kings suck, and Calvin's like, hey, they were in it. They were within 6. Not that there's a moral victory here, but I'm just saying the fact that you're missing De'Aaron Fox, you're playing the reigning champs. Yes, they're missing their best player, but the Kings were in this game. It's not like they got blown out.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like I said the other night after the Detroit game. If the final score of this game was 133-131, I would feel much, much happier about it or better about it than if the final score against Detroit is 133-131. Yep. We almost had that exact scenario here.
Yep, Niners win 13-10. Congratulations. Wish my Rams luck
happy that
tomorrow.
Aaron Rodgers lost. That's all I'll say.
And Ethan is stoked on the Bengals.
He's had a good day.
Yeah, he paid the bar tab. I was happy about that. So it happens when you win 20 G's, I guess. All right, are you done going over the box score here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Anything else that jumps out in team stats? I know you're talking about the Kings dominated in most of those categories.
All it is really is 3-point shooting. I mean, that's free throws obviously hurt them. The Bucks shot a lot more free throw attempts and they converted on them. The Kings have somehow regressed back into a team that is not is a below average free throw shooting team, just 62.5% today. But other than that, they did everything they needed to do to win this game. 14 turnovers is not great, but you can overcome that when you have almost 30 assists and you shoot lights out.
Yeah.
Almost, because you still have to stop the other team from scoring.
And, turnovers for me are a very important category just in the fact that it shows the difference between a good or a veteran team and a team that's young like the Kings that make a lot of mistakes. You're just going to – they doubled you up in the turnover category. 7-14, Milwaukee takes care of the ball. They, I guess, cherish the moment, and they know how important every single possession is.
Yeah, 100%. And I love this comment here in the chat because it's something that we've talked about before in the past. I agree. The Kings are not a team that can afford to switch all screens. It puts them in a lot of bad positions. They do not have enough versatile defenders who can guard, 2 or 3 positions apiece. And, their guards need to fight through screens more. It would help them a lot because they're bad at scrambling. They're bad at recovering to open 3-point shooters, as we saw time after time today. It's a very good comment, I think.
Yeah, what's up, Gothan? Good to see you. What do you think about Bagley? Only 5 rebounds tonight, but he shot 50% from the field. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what I saw from Marvin Bagley tonight. I think that they were definitely early on. I think maybe out of the first 10 possessions, they went to him 5 or 6 times in a row. And that's probably a result of De'Aaron Fox not playing either. That maybe Tyrese felt like, all right, I'm going to get this guy going here early on. No Giannis in the game, so maybe he's got a little bit of an advantage inside. And due to the fact that Giannis didn't play, the Kings really took good advantage of being able to get into the paint and score, something I did not think going into this game that they were going to have that easy of a time with. 58 points in the paint is great against this Milwaukee defense. So, yeah, you said it, only 5 rebounds. But, again, I thought he was he was solid overall. I like the little, he's trying to take more of the, maybe 8 to 10 foot, kind of like a half jump hook shot, which is available for him a lot of times. So if he can knock that down consistently, that's going to be something they can really use.
Yeah, he's definitely been working with Rashawn on that one. And as you mentioned, points in the paint were huge tonight. We saw Harrison Barnes cutting to the basket pretty often. 29 points in 39 minutes. I love what I saw out of HB tonight. He was shooting the three well. He was just playing good overall basketball, and that's something that, I feel like has been lacking from this roster since the first month of the season, where he was playing lights out. We hear rumors just the past couple of days about how Harrison Barnes and Rashawn Holmes are now on the trade block, and we'll talk about that in the next section. But we got to give credit where credit's due. We're critical of guys when they don't play well. Even though the Kings lost tonight, I love what I saw out of Harrison Barnes.
I agree, 100%.
You want to jump here into your keys for the Bucks game?
Yeah, number one was everyone commit to rebounding. Again, Giannis didn't play, so kind of had to take it with a grain of salt a little bit. But the Kings won the rebound battle. 13 offensive boards. They had 48 overall for the game, so you can check that box. Number two was, can they stay hot from three? The answer was definitely yes in that regard as well. Unfortunately, this third one they did not have as good of a time with, and that was containing Chris Middleton, which I thought would be, I don't know if it's easier to necessarily do it if Giannis doesn't play, but he's just such a really overall smooth player, gets to his spots so easily, and that was the thing today. You can't, if Terence Davis or Buddy Hield is on him, I realize that it's difficult. They're giving up a lot of size, but you can't let him just walk the ball down into that low post area. He loves to play out of that range. He's got a great fadeaway, willing passer, like I said, which is why they got so many open looks from three. And he can shoot over these smaller defenders too. So they had a really hard time with him tonight. 34 points for Middleton on 12 of 20 shooting.
Yeah, Kings fall to 18-30 on the season. They've officially been passed by the New Orleans Pelicans and now occupy the 12th spot. Only 3 teams below them now. It's really depressing to say. And the Kings are actually the third team in the Western Conference to hit that 30 losses. Not looking good, Cal. Not looking good at all.
Unless you're hoping for a really nice high draft pick, then it's looking better.
Kings are spiraling out of control. As I mentioned, they have now lost 8 out of the last 10 games. They're having issues with health. We felt like finally they're going to be all healthy now. De'Aaron Fox is a late scratch during warmups, which is weird because like 10 minutes before that, they said there's no injuries to report and everyone's going to play. Tyrese is back. And then all of a sudden, De'Aaron's out, and they say, oh, it's not serious. It's just a little bit of ankle soreness. He tried to go, and he couldn't. Do you look into that anymore, or?
No, I don't really. I mean, I don't think that there's going to be any lingering effects. Who knows even how hurt he is? Maybe he just didn't feel good before the game. And, I mean, you see that for a lot of big-name players throughout the season.
Yeah,
like Giannis tonight. I mean, if you don't feel 100% or up to playing, you're on a back-to-back or something like that, go ahead, take the day off. We'd rather have you, healthy for the next week or so.
We have a light week of basketball. There's only like 3 games this week.
Yeah.
But McCommy's got a good point here. Gotham says is resting him for a trade.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, there's a bunch of ways that you can look into that. The NBA is a lot like, ever since load management became a thing, it's kind of like how everybody is at work now. It's like if you don't feel good, just stay home. Nobody wants you. You don't have to fight through an illness or an injury or anything like that anymore. It's the same thing goes for an 82-game basketball season. If a guy says, look, I just, I'm not 100% today, feel like I should just rest it, be back the next day and ready to go. And that's how teams operate nowadays.
Right. Seems like this is the new NBA. Otherwise he could have said he felt like he had a tingle in the back of his throat or some sniffles or something like that. Goth, and I'm hungry as well. That sounds bomb. So Cal, Sean wants to know, he said, if Hallie would have shot more, Kings win. How do you guys feel about Hallie not shooting or attacking enough?
Well, first of all, I don't know that you can necessarily say if he shot more, they would win this game because, like I said before, if the other team's shooting 50% from three and you don't have a hand in their face ever, you're going to have to score 150 maybe to win this game.
And a lot of those shots were just swinging the ball around, and the Kings were just late on the rotation.
Wide open. Or two guys are right in the middle of one person, and you don't have good communication on who stays with the ball. They both end up leaving, wide open three. But as far as Hallie, not shooting enough or attacking more, I was totally fine with the game he played today. 14 shots, sure, maybe, you want him to shoot a little bit more, but he took 8 threes. He had 24 points, and you have to look around at the rest of the team. He had 12 assists. Harrison Barnes is that his season high? It probably is, 29 points.
No, he had over 30 early on in the season.
Well, it's very close. Terence Davis has another 22. I mean, Rashawn Holmes has his best offensive game since he's come back. Mm-hmm. The Kings offensively, they did more than enough to win this game. They just didn't play defense.
Yeah, you look at it, Hallie's third on the team in shots. He's got double-digit assists, second in free throw attempts. I think he was pretty aggressive tonight. I mean, yes, you can always say I want my best player on the court to be more aggressive. That's always true. But I'm not going to knock him for not being aggressive enough tonight. He wants to know, he said, this is why Kings need Fox. Hallie don't attack.
I mean, again, I'm not sure I really agree with that. Like,
and that's another thing.
If your point guard gives you 24 points and 12 assists every night, every team in the NBA will take that. Yeah. No questions asked.
And that, I want to build off of another point that Calvin made earlier, is the fact that guys are cutting to the basket and they're open for these cuts like Rashawn Holmes and Harrison Barnes. And that's because Haliburton is not in the middle clogging the lane, and he's allowing those guys to do that, or he's playing off of them. De'Aaron Fox may attack the basket over and over and over again, but he doesn't allow those other guys to operate down there.
Yeah, I agree. And still, at the end of the day, it just – you're not going to be a competitive team in this league if you can't play defense. Like, you could average 130 points a night and you still are going to be an average team because you're just going to continue to give up tons of points all the time. So there's more to it than just Hallie has to attack. That's the answer to solving the problems, and that's how the Kings win these games.
Yep.
There's so much more to it than that.
I mean, if you want to play the easy game like that, Kings need to play better defense. That's pretty much what needs to happen. We're going to talk about trades here in the next section, but I'll just touch on your question real quick. Jug says, start Tyrese at the point guard, Fox at the shooting guard, move Terence Davis to the 3, and then he wants to move Barnes and Buddy for legit 4, and he thinks they'd be a lot better. I think that the Kings do need a legit 4, and that's very, very high on their needs list. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in the next section. My concern with Fox at the shooting guard position is he doesn't shoot the ball well enough. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter putting Fox or Haliburton in the 1, 2. They're so interchangeable. They switch on defense. They're both going to be handling the ball. I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but I'm not a fan of the small ball lineup, and I don't know about Terence Davis at the 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key point to that statement is that they need a legit starting power forward. I totally agree with that 100%. I do think that Fox and Tyrese are pretty much interchangeable. I don't think they view it as one's the point guard and one's the shooting guard. They're just two guards out there. Mm-hmm. The problem is the style of play. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's how do you maximize both of what they're good at within the course of a game, because they both need the ball in their hands a lot in order to do, and it's for different reasons. De'Aaron is just going to continue to put pressure on defenses by attacking the rim, all that stuff. Tyrese can affect the game in so many different ways, but he still needs the ball. He's good. He's a good scorer. He can create his own shot. Great 3-point shooter. But he also, like we saw tonight, is the better facilitator. He can run more of a real team offense to a higher level, I think, than De'Aaron Fox can right now.
Yep.
And so that's it. It's not that one's the point guard and one's the shooting guard. It's how do you play as a style and as a team all together. And I agree with you too that small ball overall, I just don't think it works for the length of an entire season and then into the playoffs.
Yeah. And, tonight was just one game. I see your comment here, Sean, that it exposed why they need Fox. It's just one game. I mean, I could argue and say they need Haliburton. They're 0-4 without Tyrese this season. They're 1-4 without Fox. But I don't know if you could say, honestly, that this game exposed the Kings and showed that they need De'Aaron Fox. It exposed them and showed that they need more talent on this team. Like Fox not playing is subtracting talent from the team. It's not a matter of whether Fox is available or not. It's that you have that position of value. If you were to trade Fox and get other guys, maybe that would help contribute, or if Fox could contribute. But when you're missing your best player anyway, it's not good for your team. I don't think it exposes anything.
Yeah, you're right. The team just needs more. I think in all the games this year where we've seen either just Fox play, or just Haliburton play, and I'm not saying that anybody in the chat is suggesting this right now, but the narrative all season long has been when one of those guys is out, people look for reasons why the Kings should either trade one or the other one of them. Mm-hmm. But the problem, or one of the biggest problems for the Kings, is that they don't have anybody else really around them. And yep. I think style of play also comes into that as well. And you can argue whether the two of them really work together to make the best style of play for the team. But it's not just, well, we can get rid of Fox or we can get rid of Haliburton. You need a lot more than that. You're going to have both of them plus another guy probably. So,
yep. The guys that are on this team need to get better, and we need to bring in more guys as well. Because, I think when you're 18-30 on the season, you say, oh, this is the game, guys. This is the game that shows that we're exposed and we need more. Like we've known we've needed more for a long time, and hopefully Monty can find a way to address that. Man, I just can't believe another loss, Calvin. It's not looking good for the Kings. It's not looking good at all. Man, it's crazy. The Bucks. Any other thoughts on this game? You want to talk about Marvin? I see some people talking about Marvin in the chat.
He's had a really solid season. I mean, he's not like – I agree with McCamey here. He's improving, and he's still really, really young. I'm still on the fence of whether or not the Kings should keep him. I think that he still has – potential to be better. I don't know what he's eventually going to become. I don't know what prime Marvin Bagley looks like necessarily. But
healthy Marvin Bagley.
Well, that too. But I do think that on a good team, he could be a very, very useful piece. But that's, again, the problem is this isn't a good team. They need more stuff around him, and it might have to come down to, in order for them to take that next step and improve the roster, they might have to give him away.
And, I've really liked what I've seen out of Marvin. I love the second jump. I love the athleticism. I love, him just getting down in there and getting dirty and banging inside with some of those big guys. But the unfortunate part is he doesn't do it all the time. I don't know if it's a health issue. I don't know if it's schematics. I don't know if it's an issue with him or confidence or just motivation. When your team is 18-30, how motivated are you to potentially injure yourself and, be playing with some of these big guys inside? Everyone talks about, how point guard is most valuable or hardest position, but these big guys, they sacrifice their body every game. They're inside getting hit. I remember I read Shaq's book. He had a traveling masseuse that would travel with him and massage him every day, and he'd have huge bruises and all these injuries from just getting elbowed and pushed and bumped all game long. When you're a guy like Marvin who's a little bit skinnier, you're getting beat up inside. So I think he needs to be a little bit more consistent. Maybe being on a winning team, maybe being around winning players would motivate him a little bit more. But I do love when I see these flashes from him. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent. And I really hope that can happen here in Sacramento. But like Calvin said, maybe you need to give him up to get some better players. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they are in a tough spot here. I don't know what, like Charlie says, the free agent market, I'm not so sure what the Kings will be able to do if they don't get something in return by a trade for Marvin. Maybe you could still re-sign him in the offseason, but I think that's a bit of a gamble as well, given everything that's gone on with him since he's been in Sacramento. He might just decide, I want a fresh start in a new place anyway. It's a difficult question to answer there, really.
Yep, I agree there. All right, Cal, anything else you want to talk about with this game before we move on?
I think we can wrap this one up.
I mean, the bottom line here is the Kings are not a good team right now. They need to make some changes. We keep saying this over and over and over again. I think we're like 19 days now from the trade deadline, so it's going to happen really soon, February 10th. Hopefully, we're not underwhelmed like last season. I'm not advocating to just make a trade or to make a bad move, but the team needs to get better. We talk about choosing a direction. We're hearing now about Monty, Fox, Haliburton being told they're going to stay, stuff like that. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into your Sacramento Kings and talk about some trades and fun stuff like that too. Welcome back. This is the Round the Crown. We're talking all things Sacramento Kings and beyond, to infinity and beyond. Join the Royal family by smashing up that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, you might as well hit that like button, especially if you are a Kings fan. All right, Calvin, last chance to remind them about All-Star voting. You want to go for it?
Yeah, it's over today. So get your votes in. Do the polls close at a certain time on probably midnight Eastern time or something? I don't know what it is. Anyway, if you want to vote for a Kings All-Star, maybe Tyrese or somebody, or another All-Star, you have a few hours left.
Yep. Monty says, hey, Monty. Makami says, hey, yeah. Monty.
Hey, Monty.
Sean, we did notice Barnes had 29 points, and we praised him for it. We thought he had a wonderful game tonight. And, it's not the same that he did early on in the season. I think he was averaging like 33 points per game or something through the first 4 games. Obviously fell off after that. Getting healthy, I love what I saw from him. He's looking much, much better. All right, Cal, I want to talk a little bit about Miles Turner. We know he's injured now. He's got a foot issue. I think he's going to get surgery. He's out, 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. He had been one of our main targets, right? We both feel like he could help this team so much. Now that he's out for a while, if you do trade for him, this might end up being hit the reset button this season, get a good draft pick, come out strong next year. Which I'm not saying I'm against, but I'm not a big tank person. But one thing I was just thinking about today when I was watching the game is I was like, I think, Richaun Holmes is a smaller guy, and one of our biggest problems with him is his problem defending bigger guys inside. Miles Turner can definitely do that. What do you think about putting Richaun at the 4, Turner at the 5? Because I know what you're going to say here. You don't like that he can't stretch the floor that much, but Miles Turner can definitely stretch the floor. Miles Turner can help on the defensive end of the floor. So if you were to do a 4-5, and I know he's on the trade block now and people are talking about trade Richaun, but what do you think about that combination together?
Well, I like that combination together, but again, it all comes down to the style of play. I view it the same way I view the Tyrese and Fox point guard, shooting guard situation. It's not that one is the 1 and 1 is the 2, or Rashawn's the 4 and Miles Turner is the 5. It's how you use them in the offense.
Yep.
Like you said, Rashawn's not going to stretch the floor, but Miles Turner will. They'll use him in the pick and roll. He'll be able to pick and pop, go into the corner for open threes, stuff like that. But again, we've heard Miles Turner say that he wants a bigger role, something that he's unhappy about with his situation in Indiana. If he's playing alongside Richaun Holmes, I view his role, which I think would be a very effective one for the team, but I view his role as being very similar to the one he's already got right now in Indiana. So if he's okay with that, if he buys in long-term to that, I think it could be very beneficial for the team overall.
Yep.
Because he'll still guard, the other team's real center inside. He'll still give that rim protection, and it allows Richaun to have an easier time offensively. I worry a little bit about him guarding guys that are perimeter-oriented players, because I don't think that he's got quite the foot speed to do that on a nightly basis. But it's still possible. It all just depends on the system and getting these guys to buy into that system.
Sean wants to know, who would you trade for Miles Turner?
I'd trade most of players on the team. I'd trade anybody not named De'Aaron Fox or Tyrese Haliburton for him.
Yeah. I think that's how you have to look at it at this point. As we mentioned, both Tyrese and Fox have been told by general manager Monty McNair that they're not going to be moved, but DeMarcus Cousins was told he's not going to be moved. We've seen this happen multiple times all over the league, and guys end up getting traded. So who knows if it's a smoke screen? Who knows if it's the truth? And maybe these guys are the building blocks. In my opinion, they should be. But I also think that when you're evaluating a team and you're a GM, there's not really such thing as an untradeable player, an untouchable player, because your whole goal in trading is to improve your roster. So depending on what the move is, if you can upgrade, make the move. It doesn't matter who you're trading. Make the move. But we don't want to make lateral moves. We don't want to make moves just to make a move. But, yeah, I agree with Cal. I'm trading a lot for Miles Turner. And I still like that LeVert-Miles Turner trade for De'Aaron Fox. If we were to trade Fox, hopefully we get a first-round pick back as well.
Yeah,
but
you got to get a pick back too, I think. But
don't think that's going to happen.
And Charlie, you're right. Miles Turner doesn't help De'Aaron Fox standing in the corner necessarily, but Miles Turner sets tremendously great screens. So he could very, very effectively help De'Aaron Fox in a pick-and-roll situation.
And Tyrese Haliburton.
That too.
Yeah, I think that would be huge. All right, Vinny, can you show my screen here? I wanna go over a little trade I was thinking about today with you guys. So we've all been talking about the Lakers, right? And how the Lakers need to make a move. They seem to be getting worse as the days go on, and it makes me feel very, very happy. I don't know how possible it is for a Kings-Lakers trade to happen after the whole Buddy Hield fiasco. But we do know that they've been interested and linked to Buddy Hield. We do know that they need to make a big move. And I'm hearing from my sources that Russell Westbrook is not really tradable at this point. The salary, the output, there's not a lot of teams that want to give up something for Russell Westbrook. So in my opinion, that means if you're the Lakers, you got to look in other directions. Obviously, you're not trading LeBron James. You don't really have much past your top stars. So I want to look at an Anthony Davis to Sacramento trade. And I want to hear your thoughts, Calvin. I mean, you could throw some picks in here to make it work. I don't really know how picks help the Lakers. Maybe they could flip those to get rid of Westbrook or make another deal.
This may be the most unrealistic deal that we've done on this show.
But, I mean, tell me this doesn't help the team.
Of course it helps the team.
No, the Lakers.
The Lakers?
Yeah. I mean, Anthony Davis is a phenomenal player, and I'm a big fan of his.
The Lakers.
But he hasn't been healthy.
You're going to put De'Aaron Fox and Russell Westbrook together? And that is the answer to another championship while taking away your best interior defender and a guy who
you run up and down the court.
When healthy, one of the top 10 players in the NBA.
You run up and down the court. You throw lobs to Westbrook, Fox, and LeBron James.
No, that's not the answer for them.
No?
Nope.
All right, Calvin doesn't like it. What do you guys feel?
I love it for Sacramento. Give me Anthony Davis all day. But
I don't think it's a realistic deal. I'm just saying, I think this could be a deal that helps both teams.
I don't see how it helps the Lakers. The Lakers' biggest problem is that they can't get all these guys on the court together. So now you're going to trade one of them away and completely take away the possibility of them playing
For two guys that have been healthy all year.
But those two guys don't make the Lakers a better team when you take Anthony Davis away. I don't think they do.
Anthony Mr. Glass Davis. And maybe you give the Lakers a first round pick for this deal, maybe 2, and that helps them get off of Westbrook's salary and bring in some other pieces. But I'm just saying the Lakers need to do something. They can't trade Westbrook. If they can't trade LeBron, or they don't want to trade LeBron, they don't have many other options.
No, they don't. But they set themselves up for that this season.
Sean says, tough question. If you were GM, what is your splash move before the trade deadline?
Well, we know what Barry's is. It's get Anthony Davis for De'Aaron Fox.
That's funny.
No, I don't know. I still think that everybody is talking about Ben Simmons and that is the answer for the Kings, or that's the move that they should pursue. I've really shifted my focus towards Jeremy Grant lately. I think that he would fit with this team really, really well. Everything that I read and hear seems to tell me that for a guy who's supposed to be, the Pistons' #1 player, makes a lot of money, he's fairly obtainable. Like it doesn't, all these mock trades I've seen for him it doesn't sound like there needs to be a lot of, huge big name players involved or something. The Pistons are just looking to maybe get his money off their books and move on. And I like Jeremy Grant a lot. So I don't know if that's like a big enough splash move for you, but I think that's kind of what I would do right now. Or where I would try to put the most of my eggs into one basket.
I like Jeremy Grant. I think that he's kind of the new Christian Wood, right? Like Christian Wood left Detroit, signed a big deal with Houston, and then blew up, and everybody wanted him. Unfortunately for Houston, they didn't trade him. They still have opportunity, but Jeremy Grant's kind of the same thing, right? Where he's kind of the man out. He's the best player on this Pistons team, but he doesn't align with.
He's been kind of hit or miss in Detroit, but I feel like that's just because he's in Detroit. Like, remember when the Nets traded for Blake Griffin? Everybody was like, "Oh, Blake Griffin's done. He can't even dunk anymore." And then his first game with the Nets, he's dunking over everybody, and he just probably felt so good to get out of that situation.
So you think Sacramento is better?
No. Sacramento is not the same as going to Brooklyn, but it just might a change of scenery, a better overall team around him than he has in Detroit might help him kind of return to that form we saw in Oklahoma City before he signed that big contract in Detroit.
Who did the Kings play last?
Detroit.
And who won that game?
Jeremy Grant didn't play in that game. And that's a whole nother story. We don't need to relive that catastrophe.
All right, Vinny, can you show my screen here? We're moving on. We're talking about Ben Simmons again. We all know about the connection between Daryl Morey, Monty McNair. They're friends, they're enemies, they're playing chess, they're dancing. I don't know what they're doing. I don't even know if they know what they're doing. They're probably texting each other late at night with jokes, trying to get the upper hand. But, there's been some quotes that have come out, and we covered this in the last special as well. But here's a quote from Daryl Morey. I can tell you that for sure. There are deals with the Sacramento Kings that I think would work. Will those deals ever happen? I have no idea. And then the even more important part of the quote for me, are there just trade deals with the Kings? Probably not. Is it multiple teams? Probably. What does that mean? You feel like if he's been in contact with other teams, he wouldn't say probably not. He would say, yes, there are other deals that can happen with other teams. Yes, there are other teams interested. But it just seems like kind of a weird way around it. Are there just trade deals with the Kings? Probably not. Maybe I'm reading too far in between the lines, but it doesn't sound like a confident guy.
Well, I think he just doesn't want to give anything away. Like, there's all of these guys, all GMs, you can't really take, I think, anything they say too literally. Like there's some truth to some things. They've obviously been in conversations about a deal for Ben Simmons. I'm sure Daryl Morey in the past was like, give me Fox or Haliburton. Obviously, Monty said no. Case closed. Here we are a couple months later. He still hasn't been traded. So, yeah, of course you're going to reopen the door and have a different conversation in terms of players and things like that. But until a deal gets done, it's like all these guys are going to be cryptic in what they say. They're not going to want to give away too much. And so I'm not surprised to hear him say something like that at all.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. We've heard, now that Harrison Barnes and Rashawn Holmes are on the trade block as well. I saw a quote here saying the Kings are not having a going out of business sale, but it's more of a ski swap. Core players like Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, and Rashawn Holmes are available according to a source with knowledge of the situation. The hope is that there are a different combination of players that will somehow fit better with Fox and Haliburton.
Yeah, sounds.
I think that's what we've been
obvious,
preaching all season long. I want to know what you think is realistic that you could get for guys like Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, Rashawn Holmes, and also at the same time, they're talking about different combinations that fit together. I think we've seen that Rashawn Holmes fits really well with Tyrese Haliburton. But is it just he doesn't fit with Tyrese and Fox, so he's got to move? We got to bring in guys that fit with both of those guys? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people have talked about having a real rim protector in there at the center position. Somebody who's bigger than Rashawn. You're right. I think he does fit really well next to Tyrese offensively. But the Kings' biggest issue is defense. I mean, until their team defense improves, even to a moderate level, at the beginning of the season, we said if they could be in the low 20s to high teens somewhere, that's a dramatic improvement for this team. But we're not talking about one of the best defensive teams in the league. Yeah. But at least if they were still there, they'd be, probably around the 8 seed right now. Mm-hmm. So that's the problem, is they have to find a combination of players that works well with Tyrese and De'Aaron Fox, but they have to somehow change the culture of this team to a team that plays defense.
Yep.
And that's a lot easier said than done.
Yep. What do you think's reasonable to expect in return from guys like Rashawn Holmes, Harrison Barnes?
I mean, I think there are a lot of probably combinations that would work, and that's part of the deal too, is as we get closer to the trade deadline, certain teams like Philadelphia, like Atlanta, maybe with John Collins' situation, as time starts to run out, teams will be willing to accept maybe a deal that they wouldn't normally have been a few weeks or months ago. So there's probably a lot of different types of players and teams that would be willing to accept guys like Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes. I mean, Harrison Barnes, I think, is a fantastic guy for any team that thinks they're a contending team to grab. Really, really solid overall player, does a lot of things very, very well. To me, he's kind of like the quintessential role player on a really good team.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of teams that would be willing to take him.
Problem is he makes a lot of money, and it's hard to have one of those teams absorb a guy like that. But it's just kind of interesting to me, when you look at this, because it's like, okay, well, we're not doing a going out of business sale. We are just trying to swap guys, which tells me that they're still trying to make the playoffs this season. So if that's the truth, then you need to hurry up and do something. Maybe you can't afford to wait until February 10th, because by the time February 10th hits, we're already out of contention. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a little extreme, but teams that can wait until the very last second to make a deal are the ones that have the upper hand. And I don't know if Sacramento can really afford to do that unless they are, let's say, punting on the season, or giving up these guys for younger players, draft picks, things that they can build off of and come back strong next year.
Yeah. I mean, I also see it as, for a team like Sacramento, we keep saying it, they just need to make some type of move. So obviously they should try for, their what they think is the best deal, whether that's Ben Simmons or somebody else like that, some other big name player, an all-star type player, Sabonis, any of those guys. But if they fail and the deadline's rapidly approaching, I still think there would be some move. We might not sit back here and go, wow, this is a great deal for the Kings. This really gains them a lot of momentum here for the end of the year. Maybe they could actually make a push and get it playing tournament game, or higher than that or something like that. But we'll still at the end of the day say, okay, at least the Kings made some changes here. I mean, maybe it results in a better draft pick in the long run. I think most people would be okay with a deal, whether they think it's the best deal available or not. They would just be okay at this point with a deal being done, because nobody wants to keep watching this.
Yeah. Yeah, someone, I think it was Sean, said here in the comments that he's a little disappointed in Tyrese Haliburton. He wanted to see more from him. Hometown, parents in the crowd. I mean, 24-12 is a great game, man. It really is. What do you want him to have, 50? Like, that's not his game. I think he's possible. He could have a 40-point game. That is definitely possible. But that's not his game. His game is distribute the ball, help his teammates, score. But I thought he had a great game tonight.
Yeah, I thought he played very, very well.
I'd like to see a little bit more defense. Brendan, what's up, buddy? Good to see you in the crowd here. All right, Calvin, I want to move on here. Vinny, can you show my screen again one more time? So I want to play a little game. Let's pretend like the Kings either weren't able to make a move at the deadline, or maybe they decided, okay, we're just going to punt on the season, ship everybody out, reset at the end of the year. So I'm looking here at free agents at the end of this season. A few of these guys, you can see the ones in green, like John Wall, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving. These guys have player options. So it's an option for them to opt out and be free agents. I think it's safe to say that the Kings are probably out of those sweepstakes. So you come down the list here. I see guys like Gary Harris, Zach LaVine, Dragic, Rubio, Iguodala, Young, Beverly. Do you see anybody on this list that, you're like, the Kings should definitely go after? Is there anybody on here where you're like, okay, if I'm the Kings, if I got some space, this is the first guy I'm going after?
I mean, yeah, there are players that I like. I mean, I think PJ Tucker would be somebody worth, not spending a ton of money on, but solid guy who can really, is a consistent outside shooter, plays really good defense, hustles, veteran leadership, championship experience. I think that could be very valuable to this team. I don't like Goran Dragic. That's I don't think that's moving in the right direction. You're probably going to overpay for another point guard.
I like Zach LaVine.
I love Zach LaVine. I don't think it's realistic. I think the Bulls keep him, but
Probably.
Again, Andre Iguodala, like, he's probably a little too old at this point, but we talk a lot about changing the culture and the mentality of this organization, and people like that are, fit the mold for that to kind of permeate through the rest of the team and change culture and the way you play defense and all that stuff. So there's no real prize piece here, I think. And again, it's the Kings, so I don't know how much money they really have to throw at a lot of these top higher name guys. They always are kind of handicapped in free agency when it comes to that stuff. So
what do you think about a guy like Yusuf Nurkic? Great player. He's very versatile.
Yeah.
Portland is not having a good season.
Yeah.
They could end up blowing it up at the end of the year. He's a free agent. Do you think he'd fit alongside Rashawn Holmes? What do you feel about Nurkic?
I don't know how I feel about him and Holmes playing together, because you're going to have two guys that occupy the paint for a lot of their, it doesn't help clear things up for De'Aaron Fox. I think Nurkic, we talked about people that set really good screens.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely one of those guys. He could free up De'Aaron Fox on a pick a lot of times, but not so sure I like him and Rashawn Holmes together necessarily.
Brendan says the more we wait, the more value our draft pick is. I mean, that's a good point, but I mean, yeah, I mean, people already know it's the Kings. We have a valuable draft pick. Gotham says 24-12 is dope. B-Hawk or B-Doc, I don't think Calvin was advocating to just make a deal. I think what he was saying was that a lot of Kings fans are just feeling like at this point they want to just see some kind of change. We haven't advocated for any trade other than things that just help the team improve. We've said that a lot of these guys that maybe are untradeable, we don't think should be untradeable as long as you're improving the team.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's enough good players that have been made available here at this trade deadline that even if you don't get your top one like Ben Simmons, you can still settle for something that improves the team.
Sean wants to talk about coaching. I know we mentioned a few guys. Dennis here is saying Mike D'Antoni. You and I both like him. I'm seeing some rumors now that if the Lakers end up firing Frank Vogel, Mike D'Antoni's their first option. I'm not going to lie. If I'm Mike D'Antoni and the Lakers and the Kings offer me a head coaching position, I know which one I'm taking. And it's not in Sacramento, even though I am a Kings fan. But are you still kind of on the Kenny Atkinson train? Is there another guy you really like? I guess
I like defensive-minded coaches. So Kenny Atkinson, Frank Vogel came up as a defensive guy in the league. Steve Clifford, guy who was Magic's head coach. Yeah, I mean, Kenny Atkinson, I think, would be, out of all of those guys, probably my top pick. But, again, it comes down to, your organization from top to bottom has to have a blueprint, an outline for how the team's going to look, how the team's going to play, and everybody's got to be on that same page. And then you get the head coach, and they fill out the rest from there. So
if they don't trade anybody and they just keep the team exactly how it is now, do you see a coach that you think could – utilize these players better, or a system that would fit these guys?
Well, I like D'Antoni. If they don't get rid of anybody, I feel like this team, the way they're constructed right now, they need to play just at an Audubon type pace, like as fast as they can possibly go. And who better for that than Mike D'Antoni? But
yeah, I agree. Charlie said Kings should go after Zion.
I know you like that.
I mean, I do like the potential of that. I like the opportunity, because the Kings don't really have a lot of opportunities like that. But we haven't seen the guy at all this season. Yeah. There's been talks about injury, about weight, about whether he even wants to play for New Orleans, stuff like that. The dude is extremely young and hasn't even played a full season of NBA basketball. I think, how many games has he played? Maybe 50 total?
I don't know what the most.
Not a lot. But I want to hear your thoughts on Zion, and I want to know what you're willing to give up for a guy like that, if you do feel like he would be a good move.
I mean, why not try to go after him at least? Zion he's a generational player. Like, there's really very, very few people that have ever been in the league or ever will be in the league quite like him. And like you said, he's very, very young. 61 games last year he played.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, sure. Why not call and ask if, what it's going to take to get him? What would I give up to get him? That's a deal that I would highly consider using De'Aaron Fox in. Obviously just those salaries aren't going to match. You'd have to use a lot more, but I think in order to get anybody to get Zion on your team, you're probably going to have to give up a pretty substantial package, draft picks and players and all that stuff. So I certainly wouldn't want to, I don't think that this deal would even work, but I would not want to lose Fox and Haliburton for Zion.
You need somebody to pair him with.
Yeah, one is going to have to go to the Pelicans and one goes to another team or something, or you're not going to be able to pay him long term or something like that.
Yep.
But I would love to pair him with one of the two of them.
Charlie says the Kings are in the risk it for the biscuit stage.
I agree, man. I think they totally need to make some sort of splash, and when you do that, a lot of times you're going to be taking a moderate to high risk as well. So,
and even just trading for Zion, let's say Zion's out for the entire rest of the season, just making a move for Zion is going to make Kings fans feel so much better in the fact that this front office is doing something. They're trying to win games. Ownership wants to win games. I'm excited. I'm reinvigorated that there's another guy that's here. We made a move. We did something. But it is risky. It is definitely risky. Brendan says Zion has sat more games than he's played in the NBA. Well, a guy that's sat more games than he played in his rookie contract, Joel Embiid. And look at him now.
Yeah, there's certainly some red flags or some warning signs when it comes to Zion. A guy who has a hard time staying in shape, a big man who puts a lot of weight on a bad foot is definitely a warning sign as well. But
that's the thing, though,
man. When he's healthy, he's like this generation's version of Dominique Williams. So
yeah, and that's the thing, though, is if he was perfect, if he was healthy, if all these things were perfect, he wouldn't be available. Like that's the thing that everyone looks at is they're like, oh, there's this problem with him, this red flag, this, blah, blah, blah. The Kings can't get these guys if they're good players, if they're perfect players, if they do things right. Like the Kings have to take a risk because that's just the unfortunate fact of being in a small market. And not only are they in a small market, that they've been compounding losses and problems over and over, and it just builds and it snowballs. The snowball is like just taking out Kings fans right now. It's just going across everybody, and you have to risk it for the biscuit.
It's a very similar thing with Ben Simmons, right? Like Ben Simmons could be a player that really helps and improves the Kings a lot, but there are some red flags and some warning signs with him as well. But again, risk it for the biscuit sort of thing. That's where the Kings are at right now. It's either that or tank for the number one pick. Those are the options.
Dennis says he's got to get out of Louisiana because of that good food.
I love going out to eat in New Orleans. That place has some of the best food in the country. That's an absolute truth.
Brendan, what would you trade for Zion? I want to hear from you. What do you think is a good deal for Zion? And, put on your New Orleans cap at the same time, and I want you to think both sides. Like, is this deal doable for them? Is it reasonable for them? Because Zion was their Anthony Davis replacement. I mean, a lot of people would say Brandon Ingram is that guy, but really Zion is the face of the franchise right now, even though he hasn't played much this season or at all. But what's going to happen with him? What's going to happen with Brandon Ingram? Talk about another team that's just totally in flux that anybody could go at any time. But I want to hear from you what you'd be willing to give up, because it's definitely a high risk for a really, really high reward.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that he's already become the face of the franchise with playing that few of games, right? It's because when he's been on the court, he's been absolutely dominant.
Sean wants to know about Harris. I'm guessing he's thinking Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
I think I just saw an article today saying the Kings are no longer interested in Tobias Harris, and if a deal happened for Ben Simmons, it would have to be a 3-team deal where Tobias goes to another team. And if I'm the other team and I'm taking on $80-something million, I need something also. But what are your thoughts on Tobias Harris? I know him already, but I think Sean wants to know.
I like Tobias Harris. He's a great 3-level scorer. He's an average rebounder and not a good defender, though. So I think it would be kind of a lateral move for the Kings to take him on. I mean, if you were to get him and Ben Simmons, that kind of helps a little bit because at least you're getting a really solid defender out there as well. But that's so much money to commit. I mean, especially if you're thinking you keep De'Aaron Fox as well. You got him and Ben Simmons on max contracts. You have Tobias Harris, who makes close to $40 million on top of that. Like, where is the rest of the roster? How are you going to fill out the rest of that roster? I don't know.
Yep, I agree. Brendan, you want to see Vinny, can you show my screen here? Let's show Brendan. He wants to talk about this Zion deal. So Zion's making less than Bagley this season. He's still on the rookie deal, which, is not a ton of money, especially when you talk about guys like De'Aaron Fox that are on max deals. So the unfortunate thing is when you trade for a guy like this, the value is so high. They want guys that are star players or star potential like De'Aaron Fox. But De'Aaron makes so much more money that you'd have to throw in some, salary fillers with New Orleans. And I mean, looking here, it's probably got to be a Josh Hart or a Graham, maybe Satoransky. Let's try this deal right here. Okay, yeah, we're still sending out too much money. I don't think you could send out Bagley in this deal. So it'd have to be something similar to this, like a Josh Hart, Zion, De'Aaron Fox. If you
Probably
don't
have to throw a draft pick in there. I don't know.
Maybe you could put in Satoransky.
That's the crazy thing about this whole thing is that Zion really doesn't make that much money, and yet we're all sitting here thinking like you got to give New Orleans so much in order to get him.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about making a deal like this work. What do you think about a deal like this? Satoransky, Hernan Gomez, Zion for De'Aaron Fox. Maybe we throw a pick in there. Does this help both teams?
Hard to say no to this deal. I don't know, man. I mean, New Orleans does need a point guard. It's hard to imagine that Zion is available.
And don't pay attention to that bottom number because the wins and losses, Hollinger's analysis is not good.
Yeah.
But sorry, what were you saying?
No, I'm just saying it's still hard for me to imagine that Zion Williamson is actually available. Like maybe he could be, but if I'm New Orleans, I still think the guy is 20 years old, and we've all just chronicled that he hasn't played that many games. Mm-hmm. I think they probably want to hold on to him for a little bit longer to see what he looks like in a couple years.
So here's my question. Well, if there's all these rumors about Brandon Ingram wanting to leave the team, I don't know how true they are. We hear these rumors. You got to think that there's always like a hint of truth to something, or something is skewed why the rumor started. Otherwise, it's just, hate or just total BS. But does bringing in a guy like De'Aaron Fox, if Zion's not healthy, help you retain a guy like Brandon Ingram? Does it make him more willing to stay? And who fits better next to Brandon Ingram, Zion or De'Aaron Fox?
It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is a score-first guard. It's what we've just been talking about with why the Kings' offense, like Brendan says here in his comment, looks smoother when he's not out there because the ball is moving more than when De'Aaron Fox plays. I would love to see
some alley-oops to Zion from Haliburton.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. But at the same time, I think Fox can play very well alongside another star player or another big time scorer. I think New Orleans needs a lot of help as well. So it's like if they give up Zion and get De'Aaron Fox, I don't think that necessarily makes them better, but it's not because Fox and Ingram wouldn't necessarily work together. It's because just like the Kings, they need more around them than that.
You got to give up picks, yeah. Sean says, pick one, Fox or Hallie, and why? I think I need some more context, Sean, on this. Are you saying if I had to trade one, who am I going to keep? Because if that's what you're asking, I'm going to pick Haliburton, and there's a few reasons why. First off is he's cheaper, so it's easier for me to work out the salaries in the future, building around him, adding pieces. Number 2 is if I had to trade Fox, I think I'd get more for him than I would for Haliburton. And the fact is because he makes more money and it opens up more trade possibilities. I don't need to throw in fillers, stuff like that. And 2 is honestly, I feel like Haliburton has a higher ceiling than Fox. I'm not saying that he's going to reach that. Fox is still a much better player than Tyrese Haliburton. But I just say overall, future-wise, I think Haliburton does have a higher ceiling. Calvin?
I agree that it really depends on who you put around them. You know, like that's basketball is a weird sport, especially nowadays, because unlike all the other big team sports, one player in basketball can have a much higher effect on your team and your game than any other sport.
Yeah, only 5 on the court. Yeah.
One guy is not enough. You need more than that. And to piggyback off of what Barry said, I think Tyrese, because of his skill set, you can put more players around him that will ultimately make a good team.
Jug's got a good comment here.
I do think that I'll still say De'Aaron Fox has a higher ceiling than Haliburton right now. And the only reason I say that is because if Fox would actually commit to playing what I think he can play on defense, he would be one of the best two-way players in the game. He'd be a guy that could go out and score 28 a night. He would be a lockdown defender. If he could shoot 32% from 3, he'd be almost unguardable.
Yep.
And Haliburton has a really high ceiling as well, but De'Aaron Fox is just one of those players that is, there are basically nobody like him in the league in terms of his intangible things that you don't teach, or, you know, he was just given at birth.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, to elaborate on Calvin's point, fastest guy in the league, quickest guy in the league. So, you know, guys are drafted on potential. They don't always reach the potential, but if you were to just look at like the physical attributes of De'Aaron Fox, he has everything that he needs. Dennis says, I'm keeping Howley. Yeah, I mean, I agree, but Jug has a good point here. It really depends on what you're getting in return as well. Charlie, I'm not a big Porzingis. I mean, I like Porzingis. I just don't feel like he fits on this team, and I'm not trading De'Aaron Fox for Porzingis, and I don't see a need to bring in Brunson, even though I do like him. I'm trading Fox to, like, upgrade at other positions, not to bring in another point guard.
Yeah, I agree. The only way I would want Brunson is if you were getting rid of Davion as well, because Jalen Brunson is probably the best backup point guard in the league right now, I would say.
Yep. Sean, will Fox be a better player if we surround him with a better team? I mean, I don't really know how to answer this question. Maybe you'd think that he's a better player because the Kings would be winning more games if he had a better team around him, but I don't know if that would make him himself a better player. You know, he might be more efficient if there's more guys, I guess, weapons on the court, so people have to respect them a little bit more, and maybe he'd have a more wide open lane to the basket. But I think adding him with better players makes the team better, not the player better.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, for me, in terms of how can De'Aaron Fox become a better player from an individual perspective, obviously he's got to develop more of an outside shot. He doesn't need that right now to score, but if he adds that to his game, he doesn't have to shoot 40% from 3, but if he could just be in the mid-30s somewhere to make teams actually have to respect his outside shot and the fact that he would hit them consistently, that's obviously a huge step. He needs to commit to being one of, if not the best on-ball defenders in the league, because he has the skills to do that. And then I said it earlier this year, I think he could be a really good post-up guard as well. So I would like him to kind of develop a post game in addition to what he's got getting to the basket and shooting from the outside. If he has all 3 of those, there's nobody. He is unstoppable on offense.
Yep. Well, thank you guys for all your questions in the chat. We really enjoy interacting with you guys and, talking basketball, talking Kings basketball, talking about all these players. The Kings need to make a move. I think that's very, very obvious. But we're going to move on here. We're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at the Kings' next game and next week of basketball with Kings Crusade. Welcome to Royal Rebounds, a YouTube channel for Sacramento Kings fans by Kings fans. The Kings continue their crusade to make it back to the playoffs. Next up, Calvin, is the Boston Celtics. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you smash up that like button down below and consider subscribing to the channel. All right, Calvin, we are on this pretty brutal stretch of road games. Lost tonight to the Bucks on the road. Tuesday at Boston. Wednesday, back-to-back at Atlanta. And then Saturday, we take on the Sixers. Then we take on the Knicks before returning home on February 2nd against the Nets. Wow, that's a lot of tough games. But let's talk about the Celtics game.
The Kings are
first.
definitely getting their miles in over this next week.
Right. So let's talk about the Celtics game first. Let's jump into your keys to the game.
I only have one key because, after you go through a stretch like this, you kind of just throw the numbers out the window. Like, analytics don't matter at this point. The only key I have for them in this next game is they have to get stops. They just have to find a way to get 2, 3, 4 more stops a game because they're in a pretty good rhythm offensively right now. They're scoring a bunch of points. They're shooting really well from the outside. So they're always a threat to win when they do those things, but they don't win because they end up giving up more points. They just have to find a way to fight through screens, maybe not switch as much. Don't get caught in bad situations where you're going to have to rely on those rotations, those scrambles that they're not very good at. And then, of course, you have to secure the rebound at the end. So let's get some stops, get out and run a little bit, and then boom, we'll be in this game, and hopefully they get a chance to win at the end.
Yeah, we have a couple days off, of action before this game. They're going to be traveling. They're going to be, hopefully De'Aaron Fox will be healthy for this game. As far as the Boston side goes, they have a game on Sunday. Marcus Smart is currently out due to conditioning. He's probable for Sunday's game, so that makes me think that he's very likely to play on Tuesday. Same with Aaron Nesmith, day-to-day with an ankle injury. So it's looking like we're going to see...
As we've seen all year long, it doesn't matter who plays or who doesn't play. I mean, as long as the team has the minimum required players to play the game, it's a dangerous one for the Kings if they don't play a really good game. Like, they can lose to anybody.
Yep. You want to make a prediction for this game, or?
Well, I mean, I don't feel good. Like, the Kings are not showing me much at all lately to think that, this is going to be a win. I wouldn't put money down on them to win this game.
Okay.
But I will say that if they continue to shoot really well from the outside, Harrison Barnes has another game where he's at or above 20 points, something like that. We'll see if Fox plays. Now that Haliburton's out there, that gives them, again, another really solid outside shooter. They maybe need to get a little bit more off the bench than they did tonight. But even today, they got very little production off their bench. They still scored 127 points, which should be enough to win a lot of NBA games.
Yep.
So how many stops can you get? That's what it is.
So I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here. I feel like this is a classic Kings game. They lose 8 out of the last 10 games. They're playing horribly. They're going to go to Boston. They're going to beat this team. I don't know why. It's just,
law of averages says they have to win one soon.
Yeah,
so
it's just a classic Kings thing, right? Where we're like, okay, we're this bad, we're horrible, let's blow it up, let's move on. We've lost this many games. Then they're going to go into Boston. They're going to beat Boston. And then we're going to be sitting here saying, they beat Boston. Wow, maybe we're finally turned the corner. Maybe the Kings are a decent team, and maybe we're going to get a couple wins. We're going to get closer to that play-in spot. And then we're going to play a back-to-back on Wednesday against the Hawks, and we're going to get smoked, and we're going to be right back in the same exact position.
That's that's a very Kings thing to do. So you sound like you've got a good crystal ball in front of you.
I sound like a Kings fan. I mean, yeah, Buddy's checked out. I think a lot of guys have checked out. Wouldn't you check out if you're being mentioned as in every single trade rumor imaginable? You already got traded once and it fell through. Kings fans are booing you and constantly wanting you to be traded. I mean, I'd probably check out too if I were him. But yeah, I'm predicting a Kings win against the Celtics on Tuesday. Don't ask me why. They're going to win the game.
They certainly can.
So Celtics Tuesday, Hawks Wednesday, Sixers Saturday, and then the Knicks on Monday to close out the month. Calvin and I are actually going to be going to a couple games in February, the 8th and the 9th, back-to-back against the Timberwolves. So we hope we will see you all there. But Calvin, these next couple games, I know they're all tough games, but which one are you looking forward to most?
Which one am I looking forward to the most? I don't know. I mean, there's reasons to like all these games. Hey, Monty, the Celtics are one of these teams that are rumored to be perhaps willing to let go of one of their stars. So I don't know if you want to take a red eye to Boston or something and talk to the people over there, but that might be good. It could be a good showcase game for both teams. Maybe De'Aaron Fox has like 35 points. A lot of people I know want Fox for Jaylen Brown. So I like watching Atlanta play. They're a very exciting team. I wish I could go to the game in Madison Square Garden. I've still never been to a game at Madison Square Garden.
We're boycotting. We're boycotting the game.
We're boycotting
all the road games.
All the road games.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that?
Just like all the other Kings fans.
Oh, okay. But we're going to the games that all the other people are boycotting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And I want to talk about that real quick. Don't boycott the Kings games. What are you guys doing? You got to support your team. Come on. I know it sucks. I know they suck. I know you don't want to spend money to go see them and pay $20 for a beer. It's tough. But, hey, you get to see live basketball. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Shit's crazy. Go to the game. Let's stop the hashtag boycott the Kings. Let's start hashtag Hey Monty. Let's put some pressure on Monty. Let's support the team. Let's support him, but let's let him know we need to make a move. Hashtag Hey Monty. I like this deal. Do this. I like this guy. Make a move. Hashtag Monty. Let's get it, guys. Let's get it. Let's get a move to happen, Cal.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I feel like you and I are in a little bit of a different situation, though. We don't have the ability to just go to a game every week if we want to.
Yeah, we're boycotting.
Yeah. But you're trying to stop the boycotting.
Yeah, we're boycotting from afar. I wish we could afford to fly there to every game, but maybe in the future, once you guys, start, once we get 1,000, once we get some sponsors, we'll be a little bit more available for you guys. But hey, make sure you guys check us out. 8th and 9th, we'll be in Sacramento. We'll be at the Timberwolves games. We will be at K Street bars afterwards, having fun. We'll be at the Coin Op, so make sure you guys check us out.
Yeah, I'll be showing off my Anthony Edwards rare NBA Top Shot moment.
Oh, there you go.
Hopefully he doesn't have another one against the Kings, but it's very possible.
That's funny. Well, hey, I want to just thank you guys so much for joining us. Another tough loss for your Sacramento Kings. But, hey, I feel much better than I did after the game. I decompressed a little bit. I vented to all of you fans. We want to remind you all to please check out right below me here, royalrebounds.com. You can get some awesome gear there. You can check us out on Twitter, Royal_Rebounds, or on Instagram @RoyalRebounds. All right, Cal, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up the show here?
I'm just happy we don't have to talk about all-star voting anymore.
All-star voting. Today is the last day, so vote for your favorite Kings player. Let's send them to Cleveland. I don't know why we want to do that, but
just for a day.
Yeah, just for a day. But
or
hey,
a weekend, I guess.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you smash up that like button, hit that subscribe button. We will see you all on Tuesday after the Kings beat the Celtics per my prediction. You guys have a wonderful evening. And in the meantime, go Kings.